Not a lot to say today. I'm just gonna crank away on this. The one thing I did was I took the tight drawings that I had already done and put them in a separate level so that I didn't have so that I could essentially take the sticks and balls, turn their opacity down. You can see to around 30. Just draw over top of it instead of doing all the erasing that I was doing. Seemed like it was getting a little cumbersome. So I'm finding that by being a little more I don't know, I don't want to say this, focusing more on the straight lines and the progressive movement of individual straight lines that comprise my character, for me, I think is giving a little bit better results. Okay, that actually should be a little lower, I think. Totally sold on that one. There. It's interesting because the more you look at the details in terms of the actual frame to frame straight lines. I'm drawing obviously lots of straight lines. In terms of how they move and animate, it's always interesting because the closer you look, the more you see. You know, you see more and more little details that each need to animate accurately. And so I'm finding that trying to be too bold and exacting with curves, basically, because a lot of times when you draw straight lines to, you know, you wind up connecting them with a curve, essentially like a kind of like a Bezier curve interpolating between the straight lines is really what you wind up drawing. And right here, this is kind of interesting because that would actually poof out over that. You know, and this is going by very quickly. So, as I've said in many occasions, we can get away with a lot, but at the same time, you know, you want it to sell. So here, obviously his fingers have sort of moved. And by doing it more this way, I'm liking my drawing better. Like, I don't like his drawing of his hand right there that well anymore. You could argue about this foreshortening too, whether that's really working, but maybe. Let me just look at this for a second. I'm going to defer on that for a moment. Okay. Okay. I like this hand would be a good example. I'm just going to draw this hand in terms of the broad shape it would be. Okay, and then here it would flatten back out again, like so. So it is interesting to see how trying to do animation work in a fairly disciplined way is, I think, making me a better cartoonist. Now you could argue that this move right here couldn't really take place that fast. I don't like that line. I think it's too far in. You gotta remember, this is all going to be lost in blackness anyway, also, so. Okay, so I'm going to pull out just a little bit. Yeah, see, at that point, most of it changes. Not 100% though, so I think what I'm going to do is grab this. I think if I hit shift, yes. Control C. And I'm going to hit the B key so it makes a new frame. Then I'm going to hit S, Control V. Okay, so now I can take just these pieces and put them where I want them, which is kind of cool. And I think that's probably good policy, actually. There, his hand's going to extend a little more, and that hand lets loose. So basically, that's the only parts of the frame that I can really keep. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and extend this down and hit the B key. At this point, I feel like I can go ahead and insert these other keyframes. since we're going to just like cut and paste from one to the other. Okay, so let's see what we can do with his head. Control C. Okay. So it... Whoa. What in the world just happened? Alright, I'm going to hit Control. How we got on the skeleton tool, I have no idea. Maybe I hit... What did... Let's see. V. I must have hit V instead of... I don't know. Oh, instead of Control V. Yep, that would explain it. Okay, so there's that. Next frame. Control V. Next frame. How'd that get in there? Uh-huh. S key, Control V. Okay. Now that gives us... Yeah, not bad, not bad. Okay, so now let's go through and start dealing with some of the stuff that is not for sure. Okay. Okay, there's a real danger right here of getting too exacting. I started to draw with more curves just a second ago right here with the bicep. I don't want to do that. That gets me into a mode where I'm being too exacting, and invariably it's going to wind up having to be changed. So let's just not be stupid. Okay, that's the last frame. So it's interesting. This clothing above the band, essentially, this is what I'm talking about, where, you know, the closer you look, the more you start learning. This shoulder is really 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. That's what it is. And it's cool because if you get that correct, if you get the relationship and the movement and that of those 3 lines correct, and here I'm extending it out a little bit because he's obviously stretching his arm out, then the underlying drawing and animation will be correct. Now what I want to do is say, here's this. Okay, so let's see if we can simplify this the same way. This is essentially 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. It's crunched shorter there, so which means it might pop out more. 1, 2, 3. So, like I said, I never used to draw this way. But it's just pragmatism, I guess. It's like you're determined to figure out the most reliable way to get a good result, and changes how you operate. And I like it. I like the result. Treating his fingers as a claw. And I don't like that. I think that hand needs to be up a little higher. So let's go here. Alright. There. Something like that. thinking in terms of the volumes, the underlying volumes. One, two, three. Okay. Let's pull out just a little bit. Yeah, just one notch, I would say. Okay. Now, it's just interesting to me that working this way, I seem to be, it's like it's consistently, I don't know, I mean, what's the word, professional? The result looks more professional to me. Now, it could be an illusion. It could be, as I get into inking it, I may find out that this backfires in some way, but for the most part, I think I'm on pretty solid footing here. Okay, so that, I don't know why that must have been drawn the other day because, yeah. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to erase this, and we're going to start doing some cutting and pasting again. Okay, so what's the actual volume? Well, the volume is going to be something like this. That's basically what we're seeing. Okay, now let's zoom in and tighten it up a little bit. I'm going to make my eraser nice and small so I can basically turn this into a pretty firm drawing because I'm planning to cut and paste it between a bunch of frames, so I want to make sure it's right. Okay. Get the idea? So I'm even going to get that pinky in there correctly. So now that, see, that's going to ink up really well. I'm just going to go ahead and clean it up so I can go ahead and cut and paste it throughout and feel good about it, right? Okay. Nice. So we're going to grab this, and we're going to go Control C. And now, actually, before I do that, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Alright, Control C. Okay, so now before I go any further, I need to erase this, 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 this. Oh, just got a text. Okay, sorry about that. Audio output capture should probably be turned down so that if my computer makes a silly noise, you're not forced to listen to it. Okay, I think I'm going to erase that as well. So his hand's going to have to change position somewhere, but okay. So let's go here. And I really want to get this positioning correct. How about that? Okay, let's do that. I feel like Bob Ross the way I'm talking. That's still, there we go. I mean, I feel like that worked. Save all. Where's my my beverage? My tasty beverage seems to have gone the way of the buffalo. Okay, so now let's play connect the dots. Okay. wonder if all... Seems like there was a middle mouse function that allowed you to toggle between frames. Oh, there it is. Control Shift. Excellent. Thank heaven for small favors. I don't usually get excited about too many things here with opentoonz, but okay. You could argue that that is too much of a jump and maybe another keyframe is required. But because it all goes by so fast, I think I'm going to stick with it. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's just see what it does. Yeah, see how fast it goes by. We're not going to cry about that one. No, no, no. Okay. So now we can go in and start getting some of those other details corrected. Okay, first of all, here's his belt thingy. So that means that's going to fall right about there. Okay. Belt thingy meaning it's around his waist. It isn't actually a belt, really. Okay. Okay, so now we got his leather strap thingy. So let's just get the upper part of it. That's, golly man, I tell you, it's really amazing how it's just all about those straight lines. I am talking like Bob Ross today. It's probably good because I do so much ranting, usually complaining about opentoonz or Krita or other software, and I've actually spent a lot of time the last couple days programming JavaScript. Actually, you know what? You guys might appreciate this. I'll take literally very little time here and show you. In the last few days, what I've done is here in my sandbox, I created this file, which is in PHP, because what I wanted to do is figure out, I'm looking at animation related functionality, right? So I figured out how to interrogate the web server to say, show me the images that are in a folder. Okay, so PHP passes back to me these images. Okay, so I figured out how to pull the images off the web server, determine that they are in fact images, and then display them. And of course this could be styled so they show in a row horizontally. You could display it any way you want to, but I just chose to show both the picture shrunk down as a thumbnail, so they're all 100, I think 100, maybe 200, I don't know, pixels wide. And then I also sprayed out the actual file name, and then below that you see the array that shows all the images that are in that were in the folder. Now you notice there's 4 of them because one of them is in SVG, and for various reasons I won't explain, the earliest iteration of this algorithm only was looking for JPEGs and PNGs, so it's no big deal. But then I also used jQuery to make this a draggable panel, so this could be put anywhere. And then this is actually not going to work right now. It was working earlier, but basically I broke it. But what it would do is when you clicked this, see how it just showed this image? Well, what it's, okay, sorry, now it's working. Okay, so it's working. So what it's doing is it's actually at 3 frames per second. It could be as high as 24 frames per second. But now in this panel, it actually will show me an image sequence animated in predictable time. And if I click one of these, it goes back to just previewing those. Okay, so now there's a little problem that I won't bother to explain here, but right now each of these images are now being inserted into the playlist twice. So there's still some problems to solve, but it's been actually a really useful exercise in sort of seeing how JavaScript does what it does and how to deal with things like animation. See, like right now, I don't know why I have to click it twice. You know, I got to go back and look at the code and see what I did wrong. But anyway, so that's just, you know, there's certain functionality that I think that when it comes to an animation software, you know, not to knock opentoonz or anything, but as far as an animation software concept that is web-based, where you can do everything on the server, either a local server or literally live online, I think it's kind of an interesting idea. In fact, if I was going to be involved with the development of Pencil 2D, which I've told you guys in other videos that, you know, I was kind of looking at that. I did successfully build it using C++ and Qt, or Qt if you want to call it that, which is the same cross-platform framework that opentoonz is built on. Okay, they're both built on Qt. But if I was gonna go ahead and get more involved with Pencil 2D, which is basically a really simplified version of opentoonz, it does the same kind of things, just it's less capable, but at the same time, you know, the code is a little cleaner. There's less to wade through to sort of figure out how things are being done. But Pencil 2D has its own issues. Okay, so anyway, if I was gonna do any more with it, I think I would be like, you know what, this software needs to be completely re-envisioned as a web-based software. Even if you're going to go ahead and use some platform like Electron to actually create a web-based application. So in other words, you're building your application with essentially JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. But then you have the ability nowadays to package that website into a standalone desktop application, and it's actually fairly easy to do with a framework called Electron. So I think that having the web-centric view has some benefits. One benefit is that, whether you realize it or not, any modern browser like Firefox or Chrome or whatever is a very good compositor. You know, you can layer up images and animate them, and you know, have blending modes. You know, especially if you use WebGL. The browser really has become the platform. But then, of course, the problem is you have to figure out, how do we get that application onto your desktop? And obviously, if you're a software developer, one of the questions you're always going to struggle with to a degree is, how do we monetize this and, you know, actually get paid for our work, kind of thing. So you know, and that's a I guess if I'm going to talk about anything today, that's probably the topic of the day. You know, the problem with open source, meaning specifically not that open source software does not have ways to monetize. Obviously, software as a service is sort of probably the definitive modern way to monetize an open source platform. So in other words, you're giving the software away, but what you're charging for is you know, tech support and sometimes more advanced capabilities in the platform. You know, like in an animation software, well, like Clip Studio. If you get Clip Studio Paint for $25 or whatever they're selling it for today, you can do animation. Now, we could get into a discussion of why it's not necessarily the greatest tool for that, but the cheap version of it only lets you add 24 frames, I think it is, to your project. So you're very limited in terms of how long the animation can be. Well, that's not a big deal. I mean, heck, doing animation 1 second at a time, you could actually get a lot done using the $25 version of Clip Studio. I just don't happen to like it for the same reasons I don't like Krita. It doesn't have any of the stuff that opentoonz has, like the animate tool. You know, you don't have the ability to translate things and treat them as a group and then interpolate keyframes. You know, opentoonz sort of hits the sweet spot between Clip Studio or Krita on one hand and Blender on the other hand. But it beats them both because it does a really good job of dealing with hand-drawn images and, you know, sequences of images. So, oh, it's not too bad. So I think a web-based animation software is a cool idea, not because I think it's needed in the marketplace, but because, number one, the animation software that is currently available, especially in the open source domain, is quite buggy. It really is lacking from a reliability standpoint. opentoonz is okay. It could be a lot worse. I've said many times, the good thing about opentoonz is it seems to recover from crashes quite well. It's very rare that you lose work, especially if you have autosave turned on. So, you know, it crashes once in a while, no big deal. What software doesn't, right? But I guess if you're really pragmatic about how you get the job done, in animation especially, you find out that most of what you're doing is sort of cobbling together a bunch of tools that each kind of do one thing well. I think that's usually desirable. You really want that. And if you're going to think that way, what's the common thread between your softwares? The images. You know, image sequences in a folder on your hard drive. That's the common thread. And so you kind of want software that deals smartly with image sequences, and so you're not dealing with a lot of proprietary binary formats. You know, it's an image sequence. You know, it's not complicated. When you think of it that way, then the question is, why do I have to actually do the drawing in opentoonz? And the answer is, you don't. You could do it in GIMP, you could do it in MyPaint, whatever you want. But in this particular case, what I have found is that opentoonz actually does a better job overall of managing the your image sequences and all the rest better than those other programs. So for that reason, I just go ahead and use opentoonz for my drawing as well. Ah, shoot. Okay, that didn't fly. So that's the classic problem. I wonder what happens if I click over here. No, oh, see, that worked. Now look at that. After I clicked, all of a sudden, it kept the selection. So that's cool. Just stumbling upon capabilities here. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and erase a bunch of these, because I think I can actually cut and paste his face in there, and you know, frankly, it's going to look more consistent from frame to frame, because it's not like his head really turns, right? So why am I going to just redraw it and redraw it and redraw it? That's kind of stupid. So instead, what I'm going to do is just move this guy right over here, and I'm going to hit Control C again, go to the next frame, and if I hit Control V, nope, I got to S, click, Control V. Yes! Okay, get it, guys? That's what you do. You always click in the interface before you... So I'm going to try it now. I'm going to go click, Control V. Yes, it works. Okay, so there's something really useful we've learned today. In opentoonz, if you want the selection tool to retain its selection when you paste it in for sure, just click anywhere. If I don't click, it doesn't do it. Control Z. But if I click, now it does. It's so stupid, but it works. That's actually a great example of opentoonz bugginess. That's kind of a dumb feature or bug, I don't know which it is. It's kind of dumb. But once you know how to deal with it, it's just not that big of a deal. And I'll just remember to always do a little clicky poo before I paste. Until I forget, of course. Whoops, I forgot to click. Oops. Click. Look at that. That's so cool. And that's what you always find with opentoonz, is like there's always a way. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's a little clunky, it's a little goofy, but there's almost always a way to do what you're wanting to do. And there's a lot to be said for that, because at the end of the day, it doesn't, having perfect functionality is not as important as just being able to, darn it, get the job done, even if you have to jump through a couple little extra hoops here and there, or do things in a strange way. At least you can get the job done, you know, and that's wonderful. So, and I know I got extra lines in there where it's not actually lining up exactly. I don't actually care. I'll do not care. Control V. I wonder if this is like Blender, where if I hit shift it'll move slower. Nope, if I hit shift it locks, and if I hit control, okay, that's interesting. If I hit control, nothing happens. If I hit alt, nothing happens. If I hit shift control, it locks to whichever axis. If I hit shift, oh, I guess that's the same. And control alt, nothing. Shift alt, nothing. So the only real option there would be the shift key, I would say. Okay, that's it. Let's have a little review ePoo, and I'm going to go ahead and set my stop marker there so it just shows what I want to look at. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow the frame rate down just to kind of sit through it, and you know, I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty darn good about it. It's looking good. Can't complain. Okay. So now, hit the B key, and of course, opentoonz grabbed the wrong brush. That's okay. That's okay. That's one of those things I was talking about. You just learn to do it the opentoonz way. You just learn. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Now there's one of those rare cases where I am going to insert a curve. It's working. This is all going to be black down here. Okay, so his knee going to come up here. Then it's going to fray back out. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I don't know if anybody else on the planet promotes this sort of mental approach to animation, but I can tell you it works for me. I'm just, because you know what I'm finding is if I can get this line to move around correctly, and then this line and then this line, then I know the whole thing's going to look correct, you know. So like I said, I don't know if anyone else does it that way. It could be everybody does it that way, and I just don't know it. I literally don't have a clue. But I'm just discovering as I go here what seems to be. Okay, so now this is actually a little bit wrong. Okay. Boom, boom. So this is gonna, so there's a trapezoid, right? Well, the trapezoid is gonna get flattened out. Okay, so then here again we got this group of fingers. Let's just draw it as a volume. Okay, so we got one sort of rogue frame here. In terms of the hand positioning. Okay. Gotta get that in there. Okay, and I think since his hand is going to go up in the air, and that is definitely what's going to happen here. Responding to a text. Whoops. Back here and click. Okay. Foreshortening, so that means we're going to have a curve there. So again, we're treating the foot as basically almost a triangle. It's really trapezoid, but yeah, looks good. Okay, so this hand, that's not working. It's not bad, but it's not quite right. I think we need to go like this. Okay, so this needs to reflect a little bit of foreshortening. So therefore it would be curved that way. Yes, and that way we have an excuse to maintain these curves. Okay, his thumb's there. So I want his thumb to be roughly in the same place. Okay, that's okay. See, and the other thing is I can go like this, and then boom, and I know it's going to be in the right spot. Okay, hit the N key by accident there. So it just makes the process of going from one keyframe to another more accurate, and that's a good thing. He comes up, the idea here is kind of that this guy has some pretty good strength going on that allows him to just kind of rise. Okay, so now I'm going to just draw the volume of his hand in there. Okay, so that's going to be crumpled. 1, 2, 3, right? That's the shoulder we figured out. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So I feel like that should be a little bit more that way. And I'm actually thinking maybe that band should be a little higher. Okay, so this is definitely unusual, because this is really foreshortened like this. That's what we're actually seeing here. Sometimes that's a helpful way to figure out what you're looking at is to draw curves on it like that, so it looks like a 3D mesh, actually. Yep, that's looking pretty good. And I think, yeah, that's it. There is no other frame. Okay, let's watch it. I'm feeling pretty good about that. And it's going to kick back to here. And I don't know if you guys agree with this, but in my opinion, I'm seeing the quality of these last few keyframes where I'm drawing all those straight lines. I think the quality of the drawing, the quality of the consistency, the quality of the foreshortening is all just a little better than what I was doing before. So it's not so amazing that I'm going to scrap everything I did earlier. But definitely, you know, lesson learned. I like it. I like it. Now, there is this question of, where's that going to be? Let's find out. Okay, so that would... Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and erase all of those. Okay. This kind of secondary action is so important because it really brings the drawings to life. So we basically have that out, back in. Okay, so he's moving up. So I'm going to say that. He's moving that way. It's going to come back down. Over, down, way over, down. Okay. Okay, see if that worked. Yeah, I like it. A little secondary action. Might be useful to actually speed this up to 24 frames a second, because this is what's actually going to happen right there. That's the speed this is all taking place at. I think we're good. It's been almost 50 minutes, so I think I'm going to go ahead and stop there, because I think, gosh, I mean, I've got the details in there. I think I can ink it now. There's really nothing left to do except ink. And so the next task is not going to be inking it. The next task is going to be knocking out the keyframes here. Okay? Because this guy's going to be, honestly, this is going to be a lot of fun. Let me look at these drawings. Okay. So it looks like these are all part of the same image sequence. So I'm going to go down here and see if... Okay, so I have a little bit of a concern. If I... Yeah. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I really need to be careful here. I'm going to... Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to grab all of this. Control C. And what I'm going to do... I'm just going to draw one image here. Hit the S key and paste it in. And the reason I did that is because I believe that will make this... doesn't make it the last drawing in the sequence. So there's that one. Where's 114A? I guess 114A would be... You'd think it would be up here. There's 0014. Well, what I'm getting at is that I'm almost certain that if I were to click this and hit the D key to duplicate this so that we can just modify it slightly here, I'm really sure that it's going to change the sequence in this. It's going to change this sequence, and it's going to break the sequence of images here because this column or level and this level are both using pieces of the same image sequence. So I think the safe path is going to be, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little more comedic than usual. Okay, so I'm going to go B, B. Okay, and what I'm going to do is the same thing again. I guess maybe I'll go ahead and do this right now. V, V. Okay, so now what this is actually going to be kind of fun. I think what we're going to do is delete these keyframes, and we're going to roll this sequence out twice. Okay, so, and here's why. What I want to do, like I said, is make this somewhat comedic. So I'm going to erase his legs. Let's just make the eraser bigger. Okay, I'm going to erase all this guy's legs. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the onion skins because, and this is obviously this is just the sketch. I have no idea if this is going to work. I'm going to really exaggerate it just for fun. Let's see how it plays. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just repeat this cycle twice. So, and I'll just do it with cutting and pasting in this particular case. Okay, and the reason I did it on 4s instead of 2s is because I actually want it to look choppy. I want it to have sort of that, it's like an anime effect. Let's just see what it looks like. Let's see if it worked. Yeah, see, look at that. It's exactly what I was after. Okay. Now, there is a little bit of an issue. First of all, that level of animation might get voted down. Okay. But my opinion is that if we take this, if we go from this, you know, heavy and serious sequence into that, you got to remember the next thing that happens is that basic idea of him struggling like that is going to continue through here. Right here, he's going to be leaning in, going like this, trying to get into the room, right? And then the next thing that happens is, boom, his arm swings out and hits the table, which causes the vase to go haywire. And then Ninja 1 has to race over here and get the vase. So for that reason, I actually think this is a pretty effective device. I'm liking it. Well, like I said, I might get outvoted. Now the other thing here is that this guy, I'm going to go ahead and use the hotkey I discovered. Control Shift mouse wheel. Okay, so right there you see he's standing up, right? So now the question becomes, do we have him standing up in the frame like this, or do we need to actually show him standing up? Well, it doesn't matter much at the moment for this reason. Number one, not only would we probably go ahead and put his animation of him standing up in a separate level, so therefore if it's repeated here in this level it doesn't matter, but additionally the actual tight drawings of this sequence are also going to go in another level, specifically so that I don't have to do a bunch of erasing of the sticks and balls that I've drawn here. So for that reason, I think we're in real good shape. And yeah, things are moving right along. I like it. So So that is it for today. That takes us up to almost exactly an hour, and I'm sure I'll be back next time.